The water moved, just barely. A dark shape, almost nothing more than a shimmer under the mud, trembled near the edge of the flood canal. Jayden stopped pedaling. Something was breathing. Eyes. Two terrified eyes surfaced for half a second, then disappeared. It wasn't trash. It wasn't human, but it was alive. And whatever it was drowning. Alone. With no one else looking. The storm had passed, but the streets still wept. Jayden Miller weaved his bike through toppled trash cans and broken fences. His delivery bag thumped against his back, half full, like his heart had been since the day his grandfather died. Walter had been everything. A father figure, a storyteller, a quiet hero who once pulled a kitten from a rising creek. That was the night the water took him instead. Since then, Jayden had learned to keep moving, no time to feel. No one waiting but his mother and his grandmother, who barely remembered his name anymore. He wasn't looking to save anything. He just wanted to get through the morning without breaking. But then he saw those eyes, half buried, silent. This is a story about instinct, sacrifice, and the kind of bond no one expects to form. But that morning, something stopped him cold. Jayden Miller woke up to the sound of dripping. Not rain, not anymore. Just the rhythmic tap of water leaking through the ceiling into a plastic bowl near the kitchen. He pulled himself out of bed, careful not to wake his grandmother, who slept in the living room recliner, a blanket tucked up to her chin like a fragile shield. His mother was already gone, third shift at the hospital, mopping blood and bleach while pretending her feet didn't hurt. Jayden moved quietly. Toast, no butter. Coffee, no milk. His phone buzzed. 5 deliveries lined up. Rent was late again. He grabbed his bike and opened the door. The city felt like it had been wrung out. Sidewalks shimmered with puddles of oil and rain. Stray dogs barked in the distance, wild, skinny things no one claimed. Jayden looked away, he always did. Strays were trouble. They begged, they followed, they got attached. And he couldn't. Not after Grandpa Walter. That flood, 2 years ago, had taken more than a man. It had taken the safe feeling Jayden used to carry like a coat. Since then, he'd promised himself no more rescues, no more heroes. As he pedaled, he passed an alley where a wet cardboard box shifted slightly. A dog, maybe, or a raccoon. He didn't stop. A block later, a woman stood by a downed power line, cradling a cat. She asked for help. Jayden kept riding. He didn't want to be cruel. He just couldn't afford softness anymore. But something felt off that morning. The light was too sharp, the silence too loud. When he turned the corner near the canal, his tire hit a patch of slick mud and skidded. He caught himself, heart thudding. Then he heard it, a wet gasp, like something trying not to drown. He looked toward the canal's edge. At first, it looked like nothing, just mud and trash and the usual smell of sewage and mold. Then it moved, barely a tremble, but enough to pull him closer. He stepped off the bike, approached slowly. There, nearly submerged, was a black snout, twitching, breathing, and then 2 eyes, terrified, exhausted, begging. Jayden froze. The dog's nose twitched once more, then stilled. Only the eyes remained above the water, barely. He looked around. Nothing but broken fences, plastic bags stuck in tree limbs, and a crooked street lamp blinking weakly in the morning haze. The canal had overflown during the storm, spilling into the streets, then receded, leaving behind a thick soup of sludge and shame. The dog wasn't just stuck. It was sinking. Jayden stepped back. This wasn't his problem. He had deliveries, he had rent. He had a grandmother who didn't remember what year it was, and a mother who hadn't laughed in 3. And yet, he didn't move. The dog blinked. Slow, heavy, as if even blinking cost energy. "Someone else'll help," Jayden whispered, to no one. But the street was empty. Voices echoed from 2 houses away, kids yelling. He turned to see 3 boys, maybe 10 years old, hanging off a fire escape, pointing. "Yo, that mutt's gonna die in there," one of them shouted. "Bet it's got rabies," said another. They laughed. Jayden looked back. The dog didn't flinch, didn't bark, didn't fight. It just Waited. He reached into his pocket for his phone, dialed animal control. No answer. Called again. Nothing. He texted a friend whose cousin worked at a shelter. No reply. He looked down at his shoes, already caked with mud from earlier. Why now? He muttered. His mind flashed back, his grandfather's hands pulling a soaked kitten from a storm drain, cradling it like glass. You don't walk past something that needs you, Walter used to say. You stop. That's what makes you human. Jayden had hated that line ever since the flood. He took one step toward the canal. The mud squelched beneath his sneaker. Another step, and he slid, barely catching his balance. He squatted low, scanning the edge. It was deeper than it looked, and the dog was caught in the thickest part, where roots and trash formed a deadly net. The kids yelled again, "Leave it, dude! Ain't worth it!" But Jayden couldn't unsee those eyes now. He crouched lower, reaching out with his hand. "Hey," he said softly. "Hey, little guy. I see you." The dog whimpered. No one else did. No one else would. And still, the city kept moving. Jayden scanned the area, searching for something, anything to bridge the gap. The edge of the canal was cracked concrete, slick with algae. Below, the dog was almost completely submerged now, just the top of its head, and the trembling of breath barely disturbing the muddy surface. He found a broken piece of plywood lodged between two trash bins. It was warped and splintered, but long enough. He dragged it over, jamming one end into the muck, the other onto the sidewalk. It bent under his weight as he tested it. His palms were sweating. He didn't care. Step by step he edged forward. The board creaked. Below him the canal gurgled, a low sucking sound, like the earth was trying to swallow the last living thing it could find. The dog moved, just slightly, but it was enough to make Jayden panic. "Don't," he said aloud. "Don't go under now." He was 10 feet away. He could smell the rot of old garbage, sewage, gasoline. He crouched, one foot at the farthest edge of the board, one hand gripping a broken metal railing for balance. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay, buddy, I'm here." He stretched his hand forward. The dog twitched but didn't resist. Its eyes locked onto his, wide, glassy, afraid. Trusting anyway. Jayden leaned in further. The board groaned. And then, snap! The plywood cracked down the middle. Jayden fell, one leg plunging into the mud. He screamed. Cold, shock, pain. He grabbed the edge, heart racing, thigh wedged into the slick filth. The dog yelped. Panic now. It thrashed once, but the mud held fast. He clawed his way back, dragging his leg from the suction with everything he had. His jeans tore. His shin bled. He crawled out onto the sidewalk, coughing, shaking. His chest heaved. The kids were gone. The street was empty again, except for him and the dog. Still waiting. He closed his eyes. A memory rushed in. His grandfather, waist-deep in brown water, arms reaching for the kitten. Jayden, 12 years old, screaming from the porch, "Come back! It's not worth it!" Walter smiled. "You don't walk past..." The current hit him sideways. Jayden opened his eyes. "I can't do this," he whispered. He stood, and that's when he saw her, an older woman, maybe 50, with graying braids and a hoodie soaked at the cuffs, standing by the fence. "You gonna get that dog or what?" she said. "I tried," Jayden replied, breathless. "It stuck. I fell. She walked to her truck and pulled out a long orange extension cord. Tossed it to him. "Use this. Wrap it round your waist. I'll anchor." He blinked. "Why are you helping?" "'Cause I see the same thing you do," she said, "and I ain't got much left, but I got that." Jayden tied the cord around himself, double-knotted it, hands shaking. He moved back to the edge. The dog didn't look away. The water sloshed once, just a little higher. He stepped down into the mud, slowly this time, holding tight to the cord. It pulled back. He reached the dog, slid both arms around its ribcage. It was limp, too weak to struggle. "Come on," Jayden whispered. "Don't leave now." He turned to climb, but the earth shifted. The bank cracked beneath him, a sickening sound. The woman grunted, pulling the cord. Jayden scrambled, boots slipping, and then, with one last lurch, they broke free. He fell hard on the sidewalk, the dog in his arms. The woman rushed forward. "You okay?" Jayden didn't answer. He was staring at the dog, eyes open, breathing, alive, but just barely. The woman placed a hand on his shoulder. "Take care of him. Some lives only get one second chance." Then she walked away. Have you ever seen a moment like that, when an animal looked at you like it understood more than words ever could? Tell me in the comments. Sometimes your story might be the reason someone else finally stops and reaches out, just like Jayden did. Jayden sat with the dog on the cracked sidewalk, both of them shivering, covered in mud. He could feel the animal's ribs under his fingers, sharp, too sharp. Every breath was shallow, raspy. The smell of sewage clung to them both. He looked around. Still no one else. Carefully he peeled off his hoodie and wrapped it around the trembling body. The dog didn't resist, didn't even flinch. It just let him. "I don't know if you can hear me," Jayden murmured, voice cracking, "but you're not alone anymore." The dog blinked, slow and heavy, but there was a flicker now, something faint, like recognition, like trust trying to be born. Jayden pulled out a water bottle from his delivery bag, poured a bit into his palm, and brought it to the dog's mouth. The tongue moved. Weak. One sip, but it was something. "You're a tough one," he said. "Hiding in all that dark. Could barely see you." He paused, watching the dog's dull coat shine faintly in the morning light. "Shadow," he said. "That's what I'll call you. Fits, huh?" The dog's tail twitched. "Just once." Jayden laughed, soft and amazed. "Okay, we're starting with that." He stood slowly, cradling the dog in his arms. The weight was nothing, but the meaning was everything. Step by step, he walked back to his apartment, ignoring the stairs, ignoring the mud trailing behind them. Inside, his grandmother stirred as he passed. "Walter?" she mumbled. "No, Nana," Jayden whispered. "Just me." He carried Shadow into the tiny bathroom, filled a basin with warm water, and lowered him in gently. The dog didn't fight, just rested his head on Jayden's forearm, eyes fluttering shut, like it was the first time in days he felt safe. Jayden exhaled deeply. He didn't know what came next, but in that moment he didn't need to, because for the first time in a long time, something had looked at him, like he mattered. Jayden cleaned Shadow slowly, like every touch was a promise. The water in the tub turned brown, then grey, then red in places. Tiny cuts, old scrapes, a wound near the tail, but nothing life-threatening. Nothing that would stop this dog from healing. He dried him with a towel and set him on a folded blanket in the corner of his bedroom. Shadow didn't move much, just watched him, those deep eyes tracking every motion, every breath. That night, Jayden skipped dinner. He sat on the floor beside the blanket, scrolling his phone for home remedies and emergency vet numbers they couldn't afford. His mother came home around midnight, her eyes heavy, her back stiff. She paused in the doorway when she saw the blanket, the dog. "Jayden, I had to," he said. "He was drowning. No one else." She didn't interrupt. She just stared at the animal for a long beat. "Does it bite?" "No. I don't think he even has the strength." She sighed, took off her shoes, and disappeared into the kitchen. A moment later, she returned with an old bowl and leftover rice. "Keep him quiet," she said. "If the landlord finds out, we'll have problems." Jayden nodded, stunned. Shadow sniffed the food, then ate like it was his first real meal in weeks. Maybe it was. Over the next few days, a rhythm formed. Jayden worked in the mornings and came home early to check on Shadow. The dog grew stronger. He limped around the room, tail moving more each time. Still no barking, no growling, just presence, quiet and full. His grandmother began calling him the Black Ghost and smiled every time he passed. And Jayden, he began to feel needed, not for a delivery, not for a chore, but for something real. Shadow wasn't just recovering, he was reminding Jayden what it felt like to belong. It was a Tuesday afternoon when Jayden came home and found the door cracked open. The blanket in the corner was empty, no bowl, no tail wagging. "Shadow?" He checked the bathroom, the kitchen, the building hallway, nothing. Panic hit fast. He ran downstairs, checking the sidewalk, the alley, the nearby lot where kids played with sticks and old tires. Then he saw Mrs. Sanchez, the neighbor across the hall. "Did you see a black dog come out of my apartment?" She hesitated, holding her grocery bag tighter. "I called it in," she said. Jaden stared. "You what?" "I heard barking yesterday, and my granddaughter has asthma. I didn't know if it had shots. You know the rules. No pets. You don't even know what he's been through." "I don't need to," she said, her voice defensive. "I need my family safe." Jaden turned and sprinted toward the main road. Animal control. The thought burned. He didn't have a phone number. He didn't even know where the city shelter was. But he remembered someone once mentioning a holding center near the train tracks. He grabbed his bike and pedaled like something was chasing him. His heart slammed with each turn. Please don't be there yet. Please don't be gone. When he arrived at the shelter, his stomach dropped. Closed for intake. Locked gate. Empty parking lot. He shouted through the fence. "Hello? Anyone in there? I'm looking for a dog. He's black, medium size, limp on the left side, quiet. His name's Shadow. He was just rescued." Silence. Then a voice behind him. "You looking for that dog from Sycamore Street?" Jaden turned. A girl, maybe 13, stood by a nearby stoop, backpack still on. "You know him? He was outside my building, waiting at the stairs. Didn't bark. Just sat there. My mom said he looked like he belonged to someone. I gave him water." Jaden's voice cracked. "Where is he?" She pointed. "At our place. Come on." He followed her, breathless, feet barely touching the ground, and when he reached the porch, there he was, Shadow, sitting like he'd never left, tail thumping once when their eyes met. Jaden dropped to his knees on the girl's porch. He didn't care how it looked. He didn't care that his jeans were torn or that his arms were streaked with sweat and dirt. All he saw was Shadow, still there, still waiting, like he'd known exactly where Jaden would go. Shadow stood, wobbled once, and pressed his head into Jaden's chest. No barking, no jumping, just trust. Complete, unquestioning trust. "I'm sorry," Jaden whispered, arms wrapped tight around the dog's neck. "I should have never let you out of my sight." The girl watched from the steps, hugging her backpack. "Are you going to keep him?" Jaden nodded. "Yeah. From now on, he stays." He carried Shadow home in his arms again, like the first time, but this time heads turned differently. An old man sitting by the corner gave a quiet nod. Two teens crossing the street offered a thumbs up. Even Mrs. Sanchez opened her door, blinked once, and said nothing. Inside the apartment, his mom stood in the kitchen. "He's back?" she asked, surprised. "Someone turned him in," Jaden said, breathless. "But he found his way back." She looked at the dog, then at her son. Something shifted. "You know we can't keep him forever," she said softly. "We don't have to," Jaden replied, "but we can start with today." That night, Jaden set up a corner in the laundry area with old towels, a food bowl, and the clean blanket. Shadow curled into it like it had always been his, and Jaden, for the first time in what felt like years, exhaled without weight on his chest. But he didn't stop there. He opened his laptop and typed something he never thought he would. "Help me keep my dog alive." It was the title of a fundraiser. He uploaded photos. Shadow in the mud, Shadow on the porch, Shadow asleep with his head on Jaden's knee. He didn't expect much. By morning, the post had been shared over 100 times. A small vet clinic across town messaged him, "Bring him in, no charge. We'll take care of him." 2 weeks later, Shadow had a collar, vaccines, a clean bill of health, and a story that traveled farther than either of them ever had. Everywhere Jaden went, people asked, "Is that the dog from the canal?" He smiled every time. "Yeah," he'd say, "that's him." On quiet afternoons, Shadow followed Jaden as he made deliveries, never straying, always just a few steps behind. He wore a neon yellow vest that read "Delivery Dog," a gift from a neighbor who'd seen the fundraiser online. Sometimes kids would run out to pet him, sometimes people would ask for pictures, but Jaden didn't care about the attention. What mattered was this: they'd found each other in the darkest place either had known, and somehow they'd both chosen to stay. One evening, Jaden sat on the front steps of the apartment with his earbuds in, the same ones he wore the day he found Shadow. He pulled one out. "Want to listen?" he asked, grinning. He placed it near Shadow's ear. The dog tilted his head, listening to the soft rhythm of lo-fi beats. A quiet moment. A shared silence. And right then, Jaden realized he wasn't alone anymore. Shadow became part of the neighborhood. Not loud, not flashy, just there. He sat beside Jaden at bus stops, waited outside bodegas, walked with him through rain and sun, never needing a leash, just following like he'd always known the way. People noticed. Even those who once looked past them now smiled, nodded. Some asked how they met. Jaden always gave the same answer. "Shadow found me in a moment. I was ready to disappear." And it was true. Because since the day he pulled that dog from the mud, something had shifted in Jaden, not all at once, but piece by piece. The heaviness didn't vanish, but it became something else, something useful, something shared. His mother started talking about cutting her hospital hours. His grandmother, on clear days, called the dog the gentleman, and Jaden. He got up each morning with a reason, not just to deliver food or chase rent, but to walk beside something that reminded him how far they'd come. He never posted about it again. No more fundraising, no more hashtags, just quiet mornings. And a black dog who never strayed more than a step away. One evening, as the sun dipped below the skyline and the city pulsed with life, Jaden sat with Shadow at the edge of the same canal, the place where it all began. He looked down at the water, calmer now, and then at Shadow. The dog looked back, tail thumping once against the concrete. No bark, no sound, just presence. And Jaden smiled, soft and small, because sometimes what saves us doesn't speak. It just stays. Maybe you felt that kind of silence too, the kind that sits heavy like no one's coming. But sometimes someone does, and sometimes it's you. If this story moved something in you, leave a comment. Share it with someone who needs to remember that quiet acts of care still matter. That being seen, even once, can change everything. And tell me, where are you watching from? I'd love to know how far Shadow's story can reach, because maybe, just maybe, there's someone else out there, on a porch, by a canal, holding out a hand, who needs to hear that they're not alone either. If this reminded you of a moment you didn't walk away, or of an animal that stayed with you when no one else did, let's talk. Because stories like this, they don't end here. They begin again, every time someone chooses to care.